not seize it.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're more than welcome to have it back.
How about that? This Facebook video of a local police officer handing a driver back his drugs is going viral. Police say it's odd to see, but that kind of thing really is happening.
For maybe a little while longer, as Channel 2 Gwinnett County Bureau Chief Tony Thomas reports, officers say don't bet on this lasting for a whole lot longer.
I said right now in Gwinnett County, the marijuana in this bag is non-prosecutable.
This video was posted in the past couple of days on Facebook. We have not determined who the actual poster was, but it's getting a lot of attention. As I first reported nearly 2 months ago, Gwinnett County and now other areas in Georgia are not prosecuting minor marijuana possession cases. And in this case, the driver and passengers involved seem to be having some fun with it.
We cannot seize it.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're more than welcome to have it back.
There's currently no legal test in Georgia police can use to tell the difference between the illegal marijuana and hemp, which is now legal.
So we have no doubt that the video looks unusual.
But Gwinnett County police say conversations like this are occurring on a daily basis, and they will be for small amounts of pot. But officers warn, don't get used to it.
At any time, we could get notification that they are going to start prosecuting these cases.
I asked the GBI about the test. I was told while its crime lab is now testing for felony cases, the state is still trying to find protocols that would allow people in the field, like police officers, to do tests. And, quote, to date, no test has been found or developed. The lab will continue its efforts in this area.
We don't want people to think that what happens today might be something that's still going on next week.
So for now, this will continue.
So you're more than welcome to have it back.
Tony Thomas with us live now. So, Tony, it sounds like the state does have some sort of test, but not just for widespread use yet.
Yeah, that's basically right. There is a test GBI using in its crime lab. Highly trained people able to tell the difference between hemp and marijuana. The stumbling block is getting a test that's cost effective and that the not so technically trained people can use in the field. Authorities insist it is coming, and maybe sooner than some people would like.
Well put. Tony Thomas live in Gwinnett County.
Police took this giant block double wrapped in plastic and heavy to haul because they thought it was marijuana, and it probably is, but proving so, at least now in Texas, is virtually impossible in statewide crime labs. It sure looks like marijuana, and here at the Houston Forensic Science Center, looking like marijuana used to be almost enough to legally prove it was. Scientists had to look in a microscope for tiny plant hairs characteristic of marijuana and perform a crude but quick chemical test, and that was enough. No one, except maybe the drug user, cared how strong it was.
Whether it was good weed or bad weed didn't really matter.
Didn't really matter, correct.
Not anymore.
Committee on Agriculture and Livestock will come to order.
Just weeks ago, a bill that started in the Texas Agriculture Committee became law, and it made hemp a legal Texas product, but in the process upended every marijuana test across the state of Texas. It's still a crime to possess even small amounts of marijuana, and it's still prosecuted in most counties. But marijuana now has a potency limit. Marijuana and hemp are the exact same plant. If it has below 0.3% THC, the chemical that makes you high, it's a legal crop. If it's above 0.3%, it's an illegal drug. But there isn't an instrument in this lab or virtually every other crime lab in Texas that'll test for that. DPS told the legislature complying with the law could cost them $4 million every year, at least hundreds of thousands more in the city of Houston. And until there are enough fee-paying Texas hemp farmers, there's no way to pay that extra cost.
Instrumentation is a few $100,000. Validation and method development is going to take some months and is other hundreds of thousands.
As scientists here tried to comply with the new law, the Houston lab just stopped testing marijuana for a week in June. Now they're adding a warning that the tests don't report what the new law says it needs.
A drug suspect could say, that's hemp. And your response would be?
That's one of the answers. It might be hemp, it might be marijuana.
You don't
my
know.
testing doesn't distinguish under this definition.
Because of the change, Harris County is reviewing its policy for all marijuana cases. In Fort Worth, the DA dismissed hundreds of them. They're on hold in Fort Bend and Walker counties, and in Montgomery County, the DA is using a private lab to test. If that solution was adopted statewide, it could cost as much as $35 million a year.
The first recorded use of cannabis as a medicine was by Emperor Shen Nang of China in 2737 BC. He prescribed marijuana tea to treat gout, malaria, and hilariously, poor memory. What? On the home front, the first legalization on American soil involving cannabis was reportedly enacted in Jamestown, Virginia in 1619. The decree from King James I required all American colonists to grow Indian hemp for export to England. Drug runners! In 1862, Vanity Fair advertised marijuana-infused candy dubbed hashish candy as a treatment for nervousness and melancholy. Marijuana literally grew everywhere. But here is where the party stopped. Up to that point, hemp was mostly used for clothing and rope, and druggists in the US were versed in making some products using hemp. In the wake of the revolution in 1910, Mexican immigrants flooded the labor market in the US, and heavy tensions arose regarding the influx of immigrants. Those same immigrants also brought with them the simple ingestion method of smoking marijuana. Due to the cannabis being associated with cheaper Mexican labor, xenophobic and racist campaigns against the immigrants led to lawmakers and the general public acquiring a negative view of cannabis. Those lawmakers, in turn, began a nationwide cannabis prohibition. The 1960s and early 70s were an iconic era for cannabis users, bringing in a new wave of pot smoking that sparked a revolution. All across the country, young people were joining in on the cannabis movement. And it was during this time that the term 420 originated. So it's time for a pot quiz. True or false? Question 1. In 1965, the Justice Department rearranged its 10 codes to make 420 the code for marijuana. Answer: 1074. That's code for negative. False. Question 2. A Humboldt State University chemist discovered an amazing 420 unique chemical compounds in a single, particularly sticky bud in 1968. Answer: false. Question 3. At a San Rafael High School in 1971, a group of pot smokers called the Waldos acquired a map to a wild marijuana patch. They decided to meet at 4:20 p.m. in front of their school and go on a safari in search of the THC-laden treasure. Answer: true.
You got it. Nice. Good, huh?
Good job.
Yeah.
Take pride in that.
In 1970, President Richard Nixon passed the Controlled Substances Act, which federally outlawed marijuana. It classified cannabis as a Schedule I controlled substance and put it on the same tier of drugs as heroin and cocaine. Nixon planned to target heroin, which he associated with African Americans, and marijuana associated with hippies, to disrupt both groups who largely opposed him. With the federal government's stance on marijuana set, state governments were the only path to make any kind of change in marijuana policy. And that's exactly what happened. Early successes for those fighting for legalization came in the form of decriminalization for many states, starting with Oregon in 1973. Simply put, it was merely a violation.
Say, man, you got a joint? No, not on me, man. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
In 2012, Colorado and Washington became the first two states to completely legalize marijuana. It's been an uphill battle for marijuana advocates, but so far the substance has been legalized for all use in 9 states and Washington, D.C. And at least 29 states allow marijuana for medical purposes, and 13 states have decriminalized but not legalized marijuana. And those states that have legalized marijuana hit $9.7 billion in sales in 2017, according to a top cannabis industry research firm, and a majority of Americans now support full legalization. So, perhaps it's no wonder why John Boehner is getting in on what Emperor Shen Nang and the Waldos have been doing.